Each quarter tells a story. From Wall Street heavyweights to emerging disruptors, we break down the numbers, the reactions, and the moves that matter most. Real data, real insights, in real time. This is Earnings Central Live with Verified Investing.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Earnings Trader Live. My name is Lawton here with Verified Investing, your host, and today we've got a jam-packed day for you. We have 4 earnings for you. We have OKTA, we have MRVL, we have American Eagle Outfitters, and CrowdStrike. Before I go any further, a couple things I'd like to say. If you enjoy this type of content, I would ask you guys to do me a huge favor and consider liking and subscribing to the Verified Investing YouTube channel. It would mean a lot and help the algorithms push us up. I see a couple comments. Burner account says, Lawton, you're the GOAT. You're my GOAT. Well, you're my GOAT, burner account. All right. Let's hop into it. So the way this is going to work, guys, is I'm going to give you my levels after looking at what the expected result is for a specific stock. We're going to react to the earnings in real time. And if you want, you can trade the support and resistance levels I give you. Of course, just know this is extremely risky. So if you are going to participate, make sure to go smaller. And the second thing I would like to say is that in order to have your trades being executed, you have to make sure you are in extended trading hours so that your orders can fill over in the aftermarket time. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at OKTA and see what their expected results are. So for OKTA, we see here, we are expecting 74 to 75 cent earnings per share, a 20% increase year over year, so good for the company. And we're expecting an increase on revenue to around $728 to $730 million, up 9 or 10% year over year. Throw it to my charts, please. So, looking at the chart of OKTA, we can see that OKTA is towards the lower end of the charts. From its recent highs back of this year, is trading about 35% lower. Well, despite that, we find levels of support and resistance. It does favor a move up if you force me to pick, but if they have poor earnings, it doesn't matter what technical analysis says, it will fall. Right? It doesn't matter how many trend lines or how good it looks for a bounce. But speaking of bounces and coming back down, I'll give you my support and resistance levels. For resistance, my first level of resistance is at this gap fill around 11% higher, around the $91 level. My level of resistance, I have another gap fill up here around $93.66 as resistance. So 11 to 14% is what I'm expecting on the stock. For support, so should the stock come down, I'm looking around 10% lower, 10.5%, around 73.71, and then 13% lower, around $71. That's a pivot low and gap fill from November of last year, basically a year ago. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to take a look at this in extended trading hours, and it's going to look crazy. You'll see frequent price action after hours. I know it doesn't look like much now, but it'll look, you'll be able to tell when this thing moves. Afterwards, we have MRVL and American Eagle Outfitters, but those don't come out until 4:05. So we're going to focus on this, and then we're going to move on to the next chart, okay? Let's go to me, please. All right, guys, you guys have my levels. They're also on the screen below. Should be a slider below with my levels. 93.66, 91.07 for resistance. For support, 73.71 and 70.94. All my levels are actually down there, but we're focusing on OKTA, and the earnings should be out in about 10 seconds. Let's go. I see everyone in the chat. How's it going, Mark? Let's get this win. Okay, let's see on OKTA. As their earnings should come out in any second. Now, if their earnings don't really move that much, I'll cover my next charts on MRVL, and OKTA, and AEO. But let's see first. Okay, I'm starting to perk up a little bit here on OKTA, and something to note that's really interesting is I'm going to turn the volume on. You see there's a decent volume spike here, a little move higher, right? But you're expecting a lot larger of a move. This move first is only about a 1.5% move, and the first move isn't always the correct move. It's been about a minute since these earnings have supposedly come out, but the price action or lack thereof price action on OKTA is leading me to believe that their earnings have not really come out yet. Going to give it another minute, and then I'm going to start covering my levels on MRVL and American Eagle Outfitters, two things that can move decently. Okay, getting a small pop here on OKTA. So this is probably good news for the company. Again, only about 4% higher. My first level of resistance is around $91.07. Let's go in a little tighter here, guys, because we do know at this point in time that I guess they had good earnings, so we should see a move higher. I mean, we've definitely seen these things reverse and come to the downside as we see a small pullback. But let's see if OKTA can hit any of our levels. I'm going to give it another 20 seconds, and then we'll start covering MRVL. We'll switch back and forth, right? I know this is a little hectic, guys, but that's what earnings is, right? So actually, OKTA has gone negative. Wow. So OKTA actually started and was up 3%, now about 2.5% down. We'll see if it can get a continued move to the downside around $73.71. So as this continues to play out, we'll switch back and forth. We have MRVL and American Eagle Outfitters. I need to make sure I tackle those two really quickly. So let's throw up MRVL's earnings quickly. Expected, please, on MRVL. So on our MRVL, we are expecting EPS, earnings per share, 75 cents, up 74.4% year over year. Their revenue, $2.06 billion, up 36% year over year. Throw up American Eagles, please, now. And on American Eagle, we're expecting a forecast of 40 cents earnings per share. Estimate down 10% year over year. And for revenue, expecting an increase in revenue here. So interesting, expecting the earnings to be lower, but the revenue to go higher. Back to my charts, please. So going to my charts, OKTA not doing a whole lot. Let's talk about these levels. We have about 2 minutes until these come out. So MRVL can move decently. My first level of support is a nice move down to this gap fill from earlier, about 17% lower, around 77.45, followed by a move to that pivot low from just, I believe, Friday 2 weeks ago, about 20% lower. My levels of resistance, I have the high of this candle here around 1750, around 109.5, and then a gap fill up here, basically 20% higher at 111.19. Okay, those levels are down below. As far as American Eagles Outfitters, so American Eagle, this is a super crazy mover, right? Can move 30%, right? For me, first resistance, 16% higher. You have to be very aggressive. This is an extremely high risk, aggressive level at a pierce of $24, about 15.5% higher, followed by another level up here, double top, around 26% higher for resistance. As far as support, should this thing come down 16 or 17% lower, would be that aggressive level. You see all this kind of sideways consolidation. Support should be a nice base here around $17.50, and down here basically under $16 at this pivot low, about 24% lower at around $15.87. I'm gonna throw this up here for you like this. I'm going to throw this up for you here like this, and we'll react to it in real time. Back to OKTA, not much happening on OKTA there for us. $73.70 is still a decent level, should it come down there. But right now, we're focused mostly on American Eagle Outfitters and OKTA, as earnings should be coming out any second. So I'm going to continue to switch between the two of these. Okay, decent sell coming in MRVL. And little move up on American Eagle Outfitters, up about 4%. Not enough for me. MRVL down about 2%, not enough either. OKTA just doing its thing. Let's see if we can get one more pop on American Eagle Outfitters. This move up 6-7%, that's not enough for me to think that earnings would have come out. We do have CrowdStrike in about 5 minutes, so there's going to be plenty of excitement, right? But I want to make sure to give enough time for these kind of moves to play out to see if we can get some movement. And let's check the volume in MRVL, about 209,000 shares. So this is an earnings move, but not quite that much movement, guys. 2%, that's really, really small for MRVL. American Eagle initially popped, has now gone negative and is down about 2%. Let's see if that selling pressure can continue to come down, which is extremely disappointing because American Eagle's Outfitters actually a very, very volatile stock, can be a very volatile stock on earnings. Back to OKTA, not much going on. Did come down about 4% and had a nice bounce up, about a 3% bounce, but not even close to any of our levels. MRVL continuing to sell a little bit, down about 2%, not really doing a whole lot, to be honest. My first level of being interested would be if it were down like 17%, right? So these moves are kind of disappointing for now. What's up, ARA? Thanks for tuning in. Let's see if we can get some more movement here. I'm going to give it about another minute or so before I start covering CrowdStrike's price action, expecting what I'm expecting for CrowdStrike. But so far, kind of like a nothing burger. And that's honestly, can we come back to me? Sorry about that, guys. That's honestly the reality of earnings, right? Sometimes we hit it, and sometimes, you know, they don't fill us, right? And that's fine too, right? So it can either be the most exciting type of trading or the most boring because nothing is happening. But I would rather be more conservative with my levels and not get filled than get filled too early, because the last thing you want to happen is to get in and this thing continues to run against you. All right. We have CrowdStrike coming up in about 2 minutes. Let's talk about those levels. Please throw up CrowdStrike for me. So CrowdStrike, we're expecting estimated earnings per share about 94 cents, up 20% year over year, and revenue up 20% year over year at $1.22 billion. Please go to my charts. So these are my levels on CrowdStrikes. So first level of resistance I have is about 5% higher. That's a little more of aggressive level at this gap fill from Wednesday, the 12th of November, followed by the opening price of that around 8 to 9% higher, and then finally that pivot high around $567.33. That would be a move back up about 10% almost. My aggressive level is this pivot low here, about 7% low, around 477. We have tons of support down here. Secondary level is the secondary pivot low down here around 10.62% lower. Let's turn back to AEO. Not a whole lot going on there. MRVL, not a whole lot. OKTA, not a whole lot. You can come back to me, please. And I really want to highlight this comment here because you did a really I really agree with your analysis here. This person says last earnings AEO American Eagle Outfitters moved up a lot to the upside. Looks like a floater altogether this time. Conservative mode in full effect. Absolutely, because if let's say last time you had an aggressive level on American Eagle Outfitters and you wanted to short that thing on a pop up 10% and it continued to run over 30%, right? So that's why, you know, and I saw somebody said it earlier, the Sydney Sweeney effect, right, coming into play. So that's not something I'm interested in. I'm a little more of a conservative trader, even though I'm trading crazy things like earnings. But we have about 10 seconds until CrowdStrike earnings is. American Eagle, not too much. MRVL, not too much. And OKTA, not too much. Let's see if we can get a trade on CrowdStrike. Okay, earnings have come out, and it looks like CrowdStrike initially fell a bit, right? We had a really good sell candle initially, about 1.62%. Those were the algorithms, but it looks like that first move may have been the incorrect move, pushing up higher. Let's see, and then back down. And earnings can be extremely whippy. It looks like CrowdStrike wants to take a moment to kind of figure out which direction it wants to go into. So this thing is continuing to fall. All right, guys, my first level of support is around $478 pierce. A pierce to that $478 level. Let's see if we can get that here on CrowdStrike. Back to American Eagle Outfitters. Wow, American Eagle Outfitters is popping here. Remember, a pierce of $24 is that first level of resistance. Let's see if it can pierce that. As CrowdStrike is not moving that much, let's see one more pop in American Eagle Outfitters and you're likely to find potential resistance. It's at the $24 level, but unable to get above that $24 level. That is where the resistance is, and that's why my line was there. $24 basically on American Eagle Outfitters, and you're having a beautiful sell here on American Eagle Outfitters. There's a 4% fall right there, right at that $24 level, like I said. Unfortunately, it didn't pierce that for me. But there's a 4% pullback from that level. Back to CrowdStrike. Okay, a little bit of action, not too much happening. Let's see if American Eagle can burst through that. But that was literally a 4% pullback from that $24 level, literally on the money. Let's see if we can get a pierce here and a potential pullback. Okay, it did hit that 24.05. Let's see if it continues to pull back. Did pull back about 1%. So if you are trading this at home, you could take about 1%, over 1%. There's a 30-cent pullback, right? But we know that these things can move a lot. This level of resistance could turn into support if we can get above that. So if you did trade that, you'd have to be quick. You could have taken 1% at least 2 times at that 24.05. If your level was actually ahead of mine, just under the $24 level, you could have taken 4%. But this is great price action. Came down, gave you 1% again. Back to CrowdStrike, not much happening. Actually, the reverse is going positive. Taking a look at MRVL, MRVL continuing to coming down. OKTA, not too much happening. All right, guys. Remember, for me at least, this play is over. It gave us what we wanted. It popped up, hit that $24 level, flushed 4%, but it did not pierce. It then pierced and then pulled back about 30 cents, a little over 1%. And to make over 1% in just a minute is pretty sweet. Hopefully you guys were able to trade that, but if you didn't and you got in even later, you could take the same trade literally right now again. Look at that, another 1% pullback. You could have played this 1, 2, 3, 4 different times for 1% pullbacks every single time on American Eagle Outfitters. And remember, guys, this is what I said earlier. The first move is not necessarily the correct move, because what happened? American Eagle popped off of earnings, fell down, was down about 5% off of earnings, and then pushed about 16%. A beautiful sell. Guys, look at this. Look at this sell on American Eagle Outfitters. If you took this trade, there's another 4% for you. Oh my gosh, off of that level. I'm telling you, this is absolutely crazy. I'm not a genius. I just spend too much time looking at charts. But what an incredible move here on American Eagle Outfitters. You could have taken 1%, 4%, 1%, 1%, and then another 4%. And this could likely, and you could potentially trade it again. Now for me, that's enough for me. I'm happy with that. I would not personally trade that again. But for all of you guys at home, if you took that trade, congratulations. That's just incredible. I really don't know what to say. Let me show you before I close here how I found that level of resistance. That level of resistance, I went back to this gap fill from earnings, okay? This is a gap fill all the way back from earnings from the 29th of May, all right? 29th of May. And look at this fall. Look how beautiful it came in and hit that level. Oh my God, it doesn't get more perfect than that, guys. So unfortunately, missed on the other 3 trades. MRVL, OKTA, CrowdStrike didn't move a whole lot, not enough for us to potentially trade. But hopefully you guys got that American Eagle trade. That was amazing. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching me. My name is Lawton Ho, here with Verified Investing. Follow me on Twitter at Lawton Investing. And before I forget, I have a new course that just came out, 0 to 60 Trader, Crypto Edition. If you always wanted to get into cryptocurrency, don't know where to start, this is a step-by-step guide on how to sign up for an exchange and how to trade crypto. You also get 1 month free of Smart Money Crypto, Gareth, Ben, and Drew's crypto service. That's all for me, guys. I'll see you next week for another Earnings Trader. That was amazing. Have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to tune into Trading the Close here in about 5 minutes. Bye, guys.